Hello everyone, I'm Michelle. Welcome to another video. Today we're going to make a pendant to go with our herringbone chain, and we're going to be utilizing brick stitch. So let's get a materials list together. I've got two different colors of 8/0 seed beads. I'm using the same seed beads I used in my chain. One is 8/0 black diamond silver lined frosted, and the other one is black diamond gold lined Tohos. They're both Tohos. They're both 8/0s. Okay, and then we're going to use this pear crystal drop that we received in the best bead box. So I know you can buy these on a strand easily at any Hobby Lobby or Michael's. I've got a strand of 3mm fire polish. In my last pendant, the first pendant I made, I used 2x3mm crystal rondelles. You could pretty much use any of your smaller beads. I was going to use the 2mm fire polish, but I don't think I wanted that small. Okay, so I got 3mm fire polish, and I've got a size 10 beading needle with a wingspan of fire line. If you don't know what a wingspan is, hold your arms out to your sides and stretch your thread from hand to hand. It goes all the way from one hand up your arm, across your chest, across the other arm, and to your other hand. Alright? So I've got a stop bead on, and I'm going to leave a nice tail to sew in. So get your materials together, come back, and we'll get started. Okay, first thing we're going to do is we're going to pick up our crystal. It's a fairly large bead, and if you notice, it's perfect for brick stitch. It's got this flat side all the way around. So just pick up the bead. Let me give myself a little more tail. There we go. And when you brick stitch, you got to go under thread. So you need some thread on the side to go under, right? So we're coming out the top. We're going to go back up through the bottom of that bead and pull that thread and lay it right alongside that bead. So we're coming out the top again. We're going to go through the bottom again. You want to make sure thread goes in the same spot on the other side, right like that. Now we have something to brick stitch to. And since this is a series and a video for beginners, I'm going to be taking it nice and slow. And so we got to decide, what do we want how do we want to lay our beads? Alright, since I've got this gold, I mean, it don't really match really well because this is a more brassy gold, but still I'm going to put the gold on first, and then the silver in the next row, and then the gold in the next row. Alright, so I got, when you begin brick stitch, you always begin with 2 beads. So pick up 2 of your 8/0s, go underneath that thread that's along your bead, under the thread. Just your thread goes under the thread. Make sure your beads stay on the other side. And then we're going to come up through the bead closest to you, to our needle, to our working thread, and pull down, and that should pull it standing straight up along the edge. So don't worry about this first bead here. We'll have to, it will be connected at the end of our row. Alright, and remember, we want to have enough room on that tip to put our 3mm. Okay, so make sure your beads are down far enough. Okay, now pick up 1/8, go under that thread, needle up through that bead, you're going to be coming out the top, so you go from the bottom up, needle through that way, and pull your thread down tight. You gotta keep your thread tight. This is a good bit of thread management going on in this project. Pick up a bead, needle under that thread along the side, and you go up through that bead we just added. Pick up a bead, needle underneath that thread on the side, up through, and pull down. You know, when you pull down, you might have to hold your bead, tug on your thread, make it nice and tight. And okay, continue to do that. Go all the way around to the other side. Don't do the tip yet. We'll do that together. Alright, I misspoke. We need to add a 3mm to the bottom as well. So pick up one of your 3mm. Alright, make sure your tail thread's out of the way so you can see what you're doing. And go underneath that, jump over the hole, go underneath that thread on the other side. And we're going to try to keep that as close to the hole as we possibly can. The bottoms want to come over. Okay, I stuck my needle through the hole, through the bead, and then through the hole. And I'm going to pull it, and hopefully that'll straighten it right up. Right now we want to just go right back to, my cat found a 12mm bead in there. She's rolling it around. I'll take care of that in a second. But like I said, just continue putting on your beads, and we'll put on the 3mm together. So come back and we'll do that step. Okay, we're back, and now we have to put the 3mm on the top and the center. So we're going to pick up a 3mm. We will, same thing we did on the bottom, jump over and needle through that thread on the other side of the hole. We'll needle up through that bead. and pull. It's a problem. I need to get it straightened out. Pull, tug on that. Okay, now we have to get it connected to this bead. See how this bead's kind of laying sideways there up in the air? Make sure you jump over into the top. Right, come down through. I'm hoping this kind of straightens this bead out. Then we'll come up through the bottom of that 3mm again. Then we'll jump back over into that 8/0. And now it's got to lean this way. Pull it down. So now we're going to jump up into the one beside of it to try to straighten it out. Right? Alright, that looks pretty straight to me. So get there, come back, and we'll do. Okay, we're coming up out of that second bead, and I want to be coming up out of this bead. So let's try to maneuver our thread, come down that next bead, and I don't know, let's hope. I'm going to try to go down through the crystal. Without that 3mm. And without the other 3mm. Pull the thread, see what happens. Yeah, that's what I thought. It works out. It just lays alongside this pear. So now I want it to be coming out on this side. Come up through that next bead, one of the beads right beside of the 3mm. And then we're going to come up through that 3mm and up through that next 3mm. Alright, and then we're going to pick up our next color. For me is frosted antique silver. So I'm going to pick up 2. I'm going to, okay, on the side you'll see the thread bridges. There's a thread bridge between every bead. I don't know if you can see it because it's dark, but so there's a thread bridge here, and then there's a thread bridge here, and a thread bridge here. So we're going to skip over to the second thread bridge. Needle under that thread bridge, pull down, and then needle up through that bead closest to your working thread. Alright, and then we're going to pick up 1, 8/0. We're going to needle through that next thread bridge. See, right here it goes across. Up through that, under that thread bridge, pull, needle up through that bead. Make sure you pull down till it's tight. Pick up another bead, go through the next thread bridge. Needle back up through that bead. Pick up a bead, go to the next thread bridge. Now, if the thread bridge is too far away, ever, you know, and you feel like you can fit a bead in the same thread bridge, that usually happens when you're working with different size beads. Pick up a bead, needle under your next thread bridge, and needle back up through that bead. One more time. Pick up a bead. Now right here, it looks like I definitely have room to go under that same thread bridge because the other thread bridge is clear over here. So I'm going to put a bead in between there. So I'm going to go in that same thread bridge that I just went in. I'm going to pick up a bead and I'm going to needle back up through that bead and pull. Now we're on course to continue that next thread bridge. Needle up through the bead. Pick up a bead. Go under that next thread bridge. Pick up a bead, or needle up through that bead. Okay, pick up a bead. Jump through the next thread bridge. Needle back up through that bead. And pull. Now we want to pick up our 3mm. Needle through the next thread bridge. Needle up through that bead and pull. Same thing here, we want to go through these 3mm and up through the bead and the other 3mm, and then we want to find our thread and wrap around, and then we want to make sure that's pulled over tight. Alright, and then we want to continue picking up a bead. I think we want to go through that same thread bridge. Needle back up through. Pull. Some projects, keeping these 3mm or whatever bead you use at the hole is very important because you want to use a piece of wire to stick up through there. You know, maybe a head pin, but that's not the project we're making today. We're going to put a bail on ours, so it's not super important, but I'd like it to look straight. Alright, so then we're going to pick up a bead, go through the next thread bridge, and back up through that bead. Alright, continue to finish all the way around, and we'll do the 3mm when we get back. Okay, let's pick up a 3mm. jump over, go through the thread bridge, opposite the hole, or the other side of the hole, and then go back up through that bead, and just add it. I think I feel a thread. Did I? Maybe not. Alright, and you want to try to straighten that out. Okay, now we got to attach to this bead. See how it's flopping around? So we want to come over, go down through that 8/0, go back up through the 3mm, and then this bead's leaning this way a little bit. It needs to be pulled out this way, so we need to come down through it again. I got caught on my cord here. I'll be right back. So we came down through that 8/0 right next to the 3mm, and let's anchor it to the one on the right side of it to pull it straight. Oh, I just pulled it right out of my hand. Pull. Alright, that looks pretty straight. So we'll come down through this bead and back up through that 3mm. Here we go. So get there, come back, and we'll do the next step. Okay, in this step, we're doing all 3 mm's or millimeters. And so we'll pick up 2 of the 3mm. We'll go to the second thread bridge. 1, 2, needle under that thread bridge, pull your thread down, and then needle up through that bead closest to your working thread. Don't worry too much about that first bead, but alright. Now we just continue to go around like we did before. See, this thread bridge is way over here. I think we should go ahead and go through that same thread bridge and add that third fire polish bead. I just love beads. They're so much fun to play with. They've got such beauty, and you know, with the colors and the shapes, you can make such beautiful jewelry and other things from beads. And those of you that are beginners, you're at such an exciting time. Right when you're first learning everything, there's so much to learn, and it's so much fun to learn about it. You're in a great time right now. Have fun with it. The process of learning it is wonderful. Let me move my beads a little closer. and go through that same thread bridge. I am. You may not have to. If it's not that far away and you don't think it's going to pull your bead sideways, go ahead and jump into the next thread bridge. I'm just going to continuing to go do the same thing that we've been doing. Look how pretty that gold looks around the edge. This side has the gold in the front. Yeah. Alright. I'll meet you back here at the bottom and then we'll do the next step. Okay, we're at the bottom. I'll pick up a bead. I don't know whether to go through this thread bridge, but I'm going to keep it the same and go through the next. See how far away that is? Let's try it. Oh, see how far away that is? But let's go ahead and try. Let's put our needle down through and then pull. If you're working with like crystal rondelles, crystal bicones, anything like that, don't pull too hard. You don't want to break your thread, as it can. I'm going to try that again. Alright, so then just continue to put on your beads. Alright, and come back and we'll finish this row. Alright, now we're at the top. We're going to put our last bead on in our brick stitch. We're going to do just like we did before. Pick up a bead. We will go through the next thread bridge. We will needle up through that bead. Oops, got my tail thread. And we will come down through. Try to straighten it out a little bit. What's going on here? There we go. And we'll pull. Try to get those beads nice and straight. Alright, we'll come over. See how this one's sideways? We will needle down through that bead. Pull. Now it needs to come over this way. The bottom does. Let me get my thread straightened out here. So we'll come up through the bead on the right. The way this bottom of this bead, needs to move is to the right. You'll give it a nice little tug. No, baby. And let's see, did that work? A little bit. Alright, we'll come back down through the bead on the left, the one that we tried to straighten out, and up through the bead on the right. tail thread caught again. Very easy to do. It looks like it needs to come over to the right a little bit, so we'll go back over to the right. Pull it. Alright, and we'll come back up through. That's a little better. Alright, so there is our pendant. Now we want to make a bail. So get to that point, come back, and we'll do the next step. Alright, what I did was, I was coming out of this bead on the right of center. I just jumped over and came out the bead left of center, and that kind of forced these two beads together a little more, because I think I'm going to make my bail out of these two beads. So I want to pick up 2 8/0s, come down into that bead right of center, back up that bead left of center, neighbors outside, apologize, and then we're going to come up into that left bead. Alright, so pick up 2 more 11/0s. We're going to come down through the right bead, and let's come down through again to reinforce that right of center fire polish, back up through the left of center fire polish, and back up through those 2 8/0s on the left. Oops. I'm trying to hold it so you can see it. Like that. Pick up 2 8/0s, come down through the first 8/0, just want to come to a point. Come on, you guys, cooperate. And pull, don't pull too hard. Alright, then we're going to come over to the middle bead on the left. I'm just getting one at a time here for now, and then go through those 2 seed beads. Right like that. It's going to look a little different. Maybe it'll look nice coming to a point and then going into the herringbone. Let's try it. Do 8/0s, come down through that first. I'll come down through the second too. 8/0. Jump over to the opposite side and go up 3. Pick up 2 8/0s. Come over and come down through a seed bead. on the opposite side. Jump straight over and go up the 2 on the left. We want to make our bail large enough to fit over our herringbone chain. So I'll continue to make it with you. Come over, go down through that first seed bead on the right, and then we will come straight over up through those 2 seed beads on the left. Pick up 2 more seed beads, come down through the one on the right, and we'll come over and go back up through that 2 on the left. There we go. Two more. Come down through the one on the right and up through 2 on the left. We're doing great. Pick up 2 on the right, come down one on the right, and back up 2 on the left. Alright, how many sets do we have? We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I think do 6 more sets, come back, and we'll see if that's enough. Alright, let's make 2 more. So that'll be 17 sets. Alright, 1 and 2. Alright, now what I want to do is reinforce this by just going all the way down and straightening out our herringbone. Clear down to the one before the last. I'm not going to go through this fire polish again. Alright, so we're here. I'm just going to jump up into the other side. Make sure not to miss any. And I'll do alright. So we're back at the top. Now we want to bring our herringbone down. See, I'm coming out on the right side. So I would come down through the right fire polish that we started in. Like that. And then I'd come up the left of center fire polish. So I was going the wrong way. Like this. And then I'd come up through. It wants to pull way to that right side because they're so far apart. But once we get them all centered, it'll be okay. See? I just went up through on the left side a couple of beads. Alright? Now let's go down, straight across and down. There's 2 seed beads on the other side. I go back down through that 3mm. See, now it wants to pull to that side. We just got to get it to where it's centered. Go up through the one on the left and back up through the left of the herringbone. And pull. And that should bring everything centered. And it's a good size bail because we have to fit the herringbone chain through. So what we want to do now, I think, is jump back over, go down through the right side of the herringbone, and then I'm going to come back and bring it up through that same side, herringbone in the back. Bring it together more and reinforce more without going through those 3mm fire polishes. Then I'm going to come up, finish going through that whole row of herringbone. You see how square these beads are? I probably should have picked a Mayuki or maybe a Jack Preciosa seed bead for the bail. But we make work whatever we have. And then we'll jump over into the next row. Go all the way up through that row. And back until we get to the back. And once we're on the back, we're going to connect it to the front, just like we did the other side. What did I just do? And then we'll jump up into the front. And this is where we're going to sew off our thread. Trying to situate my beads. Alright, so just it's easy to sew off herringbone. All you have to do is keep switching directions. Yeah, it's going to make me go through all of them. Keep going back and forth. I think I skipped a bead right there. That's why it's sticking inward. This is just for video purposes. That right there would cause me to have to redo this whole thing. So it's so important to watch, pay attention to what you're doing. So continue going down and back a few times, and come back and we'll sew our tail thread in. Okay, I was wrong when I said I missed a bead. It was just a reflection of a crease or whatever, because it's not skipped that I can see. Alright, so this is going to be a little tricky. Because these beads are sewed together so, like bricks, it's going to be kind of tricky. So I'm going to come up through that first bead. I came out on the other side. That's okay. Sometimes that'll happen. With this, it really doesn't matter. And I'll come up through the next row. And then I'll come up through. Now this would be pretty also if we put a small row of 11 or 15 O's around the edge. That'd be pretty as well. So I'll come up a 3mm. And then I'll come down a 3mm. I'm going to come up this one. This one needs to be pulled over a little bit. And back down. And back up. We're just reversing directions. Back and forth, back and forth. And that really, you'd have to cut it apart to get it apart, a brick stitch. I'm just making circles, reversing directions every time. Alright, do that a few times, and then you can cut your thread. It's nice and secure. Come back and we'll put our pendant on our chain. Here we go. And let's go ahead and slide our pendant on. my threads through. Now, it's the back. It's the front. Alright, now I have to put this side of the clasp on and tie it, sew in my tail thread. So let me put my thread on my needle and I'll be right back. Here we go. Alright, so we're coming out. Let's ignore that tail thread for now. So we're coming out the ends here. We're going to pick up 2 11-ohs and 8-oh, and then our clasp. And then we're going to come back down through the 8-oh. We're going to pick up 2 more 11-ohs. And we're going to come down through the other side of that herringbone. Alright, and then we'll go straight over. We're going to go back up and reinforce. Don't forget the clasp. What is going on here? I'm going to go back down through and back down the other side. Do that 3 or 4 more times. Alright, and come back and we'll sew in the tail thread. Okay, I put my clasp on, and now we'll just reverse directions, sewing in the thread to secure it so we don't have to tie knots. You could tie knots if you wanted to. You know, you'd go through the thread bridge, I don't like to tie knots in herringbone because it's really not necessary. Pull that knot down and then back and forth, back and forth. Alright, so continue to do that. Come back. Oh, don't forget to do the same thing to your tail thread. If you still have a tail thread, do the exact same thing. Come back and we'll look at our necklaces. And here we are, everyone. A brick stitch pendant with a herringbone chain. I hope you enjoyed learning it. I really enjoyed teaching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.